Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Michael Lim. We've got a small, nice, intimate crowd here today, so we're going to make it as interactive and personal as possible because that's what my title of my talk is. Just to introduce myself, my name is Michael Lim. I'm the festival director for Animation Nation. It's a small animation festival, but we've also teamed up with one of the biggest studios in the world, Pixar and Disney, to host some of their films during the festival. This is something like I call the analogy is David and Goliath. Rather than fighting with Goliath, I'm actually working with Goliath for my festival. So that's a nice thing. So just a little bit of a start over here. We're going to move to the next slide. So I've just started something on about identity. Identity is a great thing in terms of like your own branding and your own storytelling. It's a very personal thing. It's unique to each individual. And so I'm just going to start this little clip from Toy Story. How many people have seen Toy Story? Okay, everybody? Okay, wonderful. So I'm just playing this little clip.
So, where are you from? Singapore? Hong Kong?
Well, no. Actually, I'm stationed up in the Gamma Quadrant of Sector 4.
Okay, the reason why I'm showing you this clip is not just because Singapore is mentioned in that, which I think is absolutely cool in the first ever Pixar movie. It's also because it's a common question that we get asked. Where are you from? How many people always get that question? It's like, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? These are all common questions whenever we meet somebody new. So this is something that I feel is really important in terms of like your own branding and your own storytelling. So where am I from? So your identity is your own brand. How do you create a story around it and discover of your who, what, and how? So that's kind of like my talk today. It's going to be about this who, what, and how. So, okay, so getting back to me again, my personal take. I am from Singapore. So this is important in terms of like your own authentic story, in terms of what you want to relate to, in terms of a relationship that you want to build with your own brand, in terms of reaching out to an audience. So I think the most important thing, like I say over here, is to be authentic and being honest with yourself. Because that's most important in terms of like communicating with others. The more inauthentic you become, the more people know. Because they know the truth. They know when you're being dishonest. Unless you're a really good liar or an actor, then maybe it's a bit harder. But sometimes it's very authentic because especially when human interaction, when you meet people face to face, when you see them and you look in their eyes, you know if they're being authentic or being truthful with you. And that also helps in terms of your own identity and building your own brand. And it also shows. So this is a great quote from Walt Disney. So it says, the more you like yourself, the less you are like anyone else, which makes you unique. Now this is how you stand out from the marketplace, also from other creators and other filmmakers or storytellers. Basically, everybody is a storyteller. Everybody has a history. Everybody has a legacy of experiences which they want to relate to other people. And that's how you build a relationship. It's the same thing with a brand. A company also has a community that they want to reach out to. And with that community, they also want to have a relationship. And that's storytelling. So my slogan for you today is, if you have one takeaway, is be interested and be interesting. These are two things that I feel that are really, really important because the more interested you are, the more curious about the world, the more knowledgeable you become. And when you become more knowledgeable, the more you have to share with others as well. And the other thing also is being interesting. Once you become interesting, people want to get to know you. They want to hang out with you. They want to say, you know what, Michael Lim is cool. I want to be his friend. Okay? So that's my own personal mantra. So my story as a director and as a storyteller, the greatest asset that you have is not technology. It's what you were saying, Ivan. It's basically social media is agnostic in terms of like the platform that you use. It's your own story. It's your own storytelling that's more important than anything else because that doesn't date. You're your own best CPU. You're your own best hard disk. You're your own best RAM drive because you never go out of date. Okay, so your relevance is yourself in terms of how you create your own stories. So this is a little clip from a spot that I did for UNICEF, and I'm just going to show it to you just very quickly.
ever see bird doing this? Birds from other places can mix with your chickens and ducks, even eating their food. Some birds can pass on a horrible new disease called bird flu. If we are in contact with sick birds, we can get very ill. That's why you should not touch or play with any birds right now, especially if they look sick. Got it?
Yes! But playing with paper birds is fine.
Stay away from sick and dead birds, especially chickens. Protect yourself, protect your family.
Okay, so you may recognize that person over there. He's Jackie Chan. So I had the privilege and honor of directing him in Hong Kong for UNICEF. This was a couple years back when I was much younger. So here's some shots from the production. The reason why I'm showing this to you today is because I believe, like what Ivan was saying earlier on, is that format is also a storytelling. It's same thing with personal branding. It's about finding your beginning, your middle, and your conclusion, your end as well. So for me, in this case, in terms of directing Jackie, it was a very simple brief. It was about avian flu, and it was a global campaign. And actually, I turned down the opportunity initially when the brief was given to me because of the format that they were wanting to shoot it. They wanted to shoot it at that time in standard definition for TV broadcasts. And I actually said to them, no, I don't want to do that. I'm actually going to work with Jackie Chan. So in order to do that, I said, I'm going to hire the best people around the world. Like what you're saying, Ivan, it's about gathering your team. So I gathered a team of interesting people from all around the world. It was filmed in Hong Kong. My producer was Peter Weir. I don't know if you know his directing, but basically Peter Weir was producer. Picnic at Hanging Rock was my producer. He never did commercials before, but because he knew me, he trusted me, and he gave me the confidence to direct Jackie Chan also. And the other thing also with this, it was actually self-initiated. I approached UNICEF and saying that I am a filmmaker from Singapore. You don't know me from anybody else, but I really want to do something for you because it's about community at the end of the day. It's about doing something. It's about leaving the world a little bit better than the way you found it. So I reached out to UNICEF many years ago, even before doing this spot, and I went to Thailand to the regional HQ, and I approached UNICEF, and I said to them, hi, I'm a filmmaker from Singapore. I really believe in your cause and your vision in terms of what you're doing to help children around the world, and I want to be a part of it. And they said, sure, okay, let's see what we can do. And I kind of like worked on a pro bono basis at that time. And I just volunteered my time and services. And I pitched them some ideas. And they said, you know what? We've got this campaign in Australia. Why don't you go over to Australia and try them out? So that's what I did. I actually went to Australia, to Sydney. I was actually based there a few years earlier in Sydney. And I met UNICEF Australia, which is a country-based organization. So UNICEF Australia actually gave me the first opportunity to work with one of the UNICEF ambassadors there, Goodwill ambassadors, that's what they call them. And I had a really wonderful time also working with that. What I did was actually blend technology and also with storytelling. In terms of your own personal branding, how do you do that? You've got to be curious again. You got to say, what's the latest technology out there in terms of cameras and so on? And I actually shot it on HD. It was one of the first projects ever shot on HD in Australia. And that time was in early 2000. So, and I also got them as a sponsor. So they actually helped me in terms of getting the sponsorship for my project. So with that, I pitched them, and they said, sure, you can direct Ken Dunn, is his name, is a very famous Australian artist. And I got an opportunity to direct him. And then based on that, it was like a jumping off point. I went back to Thailand again, and I said, you know, I've done this UNICEF Australia, but I'm still hungry. I still want to do something for you guys globally. And they said, by the way, we've got this spot coming out for avian flu. And so I said to them, okay, that sounds interesting. Who's in it? It's got to get Jackie Chan. I was going like, oh my God, I've never directed a superstar before in my life. So, so I ended up going to Hong Kong to shoot the project. And I actually worked with a very good production company that worked on Spy Game and Dark Knight. called October Pictures, and I got to work with them, and they were lovely people to work with, and we did the project. And then I carried the physical film reels, because they were shot on film, to New Zealand, to the other side of the South Pacific. And then I ended up doing the post-production at Peter Jackson's facility. You may have heard of Peter Jackson, but Peter Jackson's the director of Lord of the Rings and also the Hobbit movies and also King Kong. So I got to work with his team to do the post-production for that spot that you saw earlier on as well. So this is a remarkable achievement of gathering the best people. It's like the Avengers Assemble. It's the same thing. It's like, if you're going to go out there and you're going to work with the best people in the world, you're going to learn something from that experience. And it's going to help you with your personal branding. Because basically coming from Singapore as a young filmmaker, at that time I was in my 30s, nobody knew who I was. I hadn't directed a commercial before in terms of a PSA for a global campaign ever. And I had this opportunity because I was self-motivated. That's one of the things you got to do in terms of your own personal brand. You got to be self-motivated. You got to ask yourself, what is it do you want, and who are you, and what is your vision for the future? How do you want to get there? And nobody's going to tell you how to do it, because I didn't learn this in film school. In film school, they just teach you, make a short film, spend your own money, do that, and then after that, you graduate and you have to find work in the real world. I mean, R-E-E-L. And it is a complicated industry to navigate, especially if you don't know anybody. So one of the tools that I used also was to create a community, and that community is the Singapore Visual Effects and Animation Group. Because when I started the group about 10 years ago, I was member number 1. And now I have 4,000 followers, professionals in the industry from all around the world, including India, Europe, North America, and everybody knows me internationally. I'm actually more famous internationally than I am in my own country, because it's just the way things are in terms of our industry also. Because in Singapore, we are a very small industry for visual effects and animation also. So getting back to the next point, get rid of doubt. Sorry, go ahead, Ivan. It's LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Yeah, you can look for it. Singapore VFX, Visual Effects and Animation Group. Yeah. Anyway, I'll talk to you later, Ivan, about that if you need to. The socials are on later. So the other thing that's important is, like, when you're doing an ambitious project, you got to get rid of doubt. How many people have seen Luca, the Disney and Pixar animation film? You have? Yeah. Do you know that line that Alberto says to Luca? He says, like, Silencio Bruno. Do you remember that? It's like, Silencio Bruno is very simple. It's a metaphor for getting rid of your doubt. Self-doubt is the biggest killer in terms of your own ambition. Because the more you have self-doubt, the more you're unable to move forward. It's basically having inertia. And inertia doesn't get you anywhere. It becomes what I would say is, it becomes like you almost don't do anything at all. You just stay at home, watch TV, watch Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever you want to do, and you think like, oh, one day I'll get there. But that one day is now. It's going to happen now, because you're going to make it happen. Nobody else is going to tell you what to do. So that's how I did it myself. So the next thing also is, going back to Silencio Bruno. If you haven't seen Luca, it's a wonderful film. We showed it during the Animation Nation Festival, which I also run, and it just ended on Wednesday. And the other thing also is, I just have a little bit of a brief in terms of like what you can do in terms of like your own thoughts, in terms of your own personal branding. Basically, it's like, who are you? Get to know who you are. You have to ask internally those kind of questions, because the more you know who you are, the more you can share about what you do or what you want and where you want to go in life. So what are you doing now? What are you currently doing now? What do you want to do in the future? What have you done in the past? And how do you want to achieve your dreams? Dreams are great, but ultimately the fact is that you want to make it into a reality. You don't want it to be just a dream for the next 50, 20, 10 years, or even next year. You want to make it something real. And make this into a story. Create that story for yourself. Create that beginning, the middle, and the end. You know? Use your past. Use your present. Use your future. Tell that story. Where do you want to go? I mean, the classic line from Star Wars is like, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right? So it's exactly the same thing. You look into your past, you say, you know, when I was young, I used to draw, but I gave up because life got too hard and I wanted to be a doctor, and my parents told me to be a doctor or an accountant, and then I ended up doing that, and I'm completely unhappy with my life. But that doesn't mean it stops there. You can still have a hobby. You can still do what you like, but it's almost like what you're saying earlier, Ivan. You separate itself in terms of like, do you want to be a professional in the industry, or do you want to do it as a hobby / when you go home, you earn the dollars doing your day job, and you go back home and you create. You know, that's how you become a creator. So the other thing about it is like, share with others. Reach out and touch someone. I think that's an AT&T ad. If I just stole that line from that. But basically, it's about reaching out and touch somebody. It doesn't have to be 5,000, 50,000, 100,000 followers. It can just be one person. It can be even your own family. When I started making movies, it was my own family videos. I got my parents to be my brother is an actor also in the industry, but basically I got them to be my first critiques and commentators. So in terms of like how I got better at filmmaking was that I used to show the videos to them as a family video. And when I showed it to them, they said, like, Michael, why is the camera so shaky? Can you hold it more steady? Can you do this cut a little bit better? I like the music that you put in this one. It's very emotional. So I learned a lot from my own family in terms of like getting them to be my critics. And that didn't mean that I didn't stop there in terms of reaching out to a public audience in the future, but it actually was the beginning. It was the catalyst. It was the inspiration for me to move forward. And at that time, there was no industry in Singapore. This was in the 80s, in the 90s. We didn't even make films at that time until the Singapore International Film Festival happened in the short film competition in the 1990s. So it actually changed a lot in terms of like, how do you actually move forward? So the other thing is also give, don't get. It's not about going out there and, oh, I want to get a job. I want to get a career. I want to get more money. I want to give. It's about being generous with your time, sharing with others. That's really, really important. And part of that is also having a positive mindset. The more you can have a positive mindset in life, the more negativity you can get rid of, the more you'll become successful in life. I think that's really, really fundamentally very important because there's so much negativity. And it's also, it depends on your community that you hang around with. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your colleagues at work. If you work in a very negative environment, you're going to end up negative as well. It's going to change you for the worse. It's not going to change you for the better. So the more you can surround yourself with like-minded people who like what you do and who love what you do, the more successful you become because that community is going to be your support network. So the other thing is about, yeah, exactly that. It's reaching your audience and creating a community. So that's what they did with the Singapore Visual Effects and Animation Group. And now I have 4,000 followers who are professionals. They're not even general public people. They actually work in the visual effects and animation and gaming industry around the world. And I'm actually connected to almost every single recruitment company in a large studio or even small studios around the entire global network. So that's because of the power of the internet. You know, when I first started, there was no internet. And then the internet became a game changer. So I really find it surprising when I address an audience, and sometimes they ask me, how do you do this, Michael? It's like, it's right there in front of you. The internet is everywhere. It's everywhere, everything all at once. If you want to know something, ask Google. You know, ask yourself, ask your friends, ask your community. So the other thing about it is, I'm going to end now very soon. And this is a great quote from Walt Disney, a hero of mine. It says, some dream it, some do it, and some do both. That's what you want to do, you know? Because people dream, and then some people do it, but why not do both? Why stop there? So, your identity, okay, this is another interesting thing. This is another quote from another animation film, one of my favorite animation films. It's called The Incredibles. And this is a quote from Elastigirl. So this is I'll give you some context in terms of where this quote comes from. Elastigirl is actually advising her children to put on the mask. And when they put on the mask, she said these words to them. Your identity is your most valuable possession. Protect it. That says a lot about who you are and what you got to do in terms of like protecting your own brand. It's how do you protect your own brand? I mean, it's not an easy question to ask, but basically, the more unique you become, the more protected you are because people can see you're not copying anybody else. You're being an original person. You're being yourself. That's really essential in terms of getting out your message out there. The more you want to tell your story and the more original your story is, the more you stand out from everybody else. And that's how you protect yourself also. Because you can go to a court of law and you can just say to them, you know what, I've been doing this for 10 years and somebody just stole my idea, but I can prove to you that it's my idea because I've been doing it for 10 years. So that's how you protect yourself as well. Okay, so next is going to be a small clip. This is the trailer from the animation festival that I just held in Singapore. And it's actually held at GV Suntec, and also it was held at the Art Science Museum. How many people have been to the Art Science Museum? Okay, great, wonderful. It is an amazing place, and I was really lucky and privileged to work with them on my screenings as well. Sorry, go ahead, Ivan. Okay, no worries, okay. So I'm just gonna show you the trailer from my festival, and then this is a final wrap up already. Thank you. Okay, so these are my little handles over here. So if you're interested in following me, I am on Instagram, MLTY, and my handle for my festival is Animation Nation SG. If you want to connect with me, my LinkedIn is over there. Sorry, I don't have a QR code. Maybe next time, next year. I'll write it down. Okay, anyway, you can take a picture of that. And our website is the Singapore Film Society. And I'm also the founder of the Singapore VFX and Animation Group as well. So thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed that. Do we have any questions? Yeah, no worries.
Anybody has any questions?
No questions? Do you want to know how I did a festival in 3 months and still have a part-time job? And still managed to work with Disney and Pixar at the same time? It was quite an adventure in terms of like getting the... Actually, I had the idea. I took over as festival director in 2016. For Animation Nation, and that was also done with a very short timeline. It was done in 3 months. Basically, I brought in an animation director called Adam Elliott. He's a stop-motion animator from Melbourne, Australia. He won the Oscar for a film called Harvey Crumpet. And he was my first guest, and he was a complete indie filmmaker, so there was no agent, there was no studio to deal with. All I had to do was just deal with Adam and his partner as well. And they were wonderful people, so I brought them to Singapore, and we had a complete retrospective of his works as well. So if you don't know Adam Elliott, he's actually an amazing guy. He worked with Philip Seymour Hoffman on a film called Mary and Max and Toni Collette as well. So he came to Singapore, and we had our first edition for the festival. We also had 2 films, The Red Turtle and also Boy in the World. Both were Oscar-nominated Best Picture films for animation. So it was really great. And then we took a little bit of a break. And then COVID happened, and then we took a slightly longer break. And then we're back now, so with the 2022 edition. So it's something that I'm really proud of. The US Embassy actually supported us. My team at the Animation Nation, they're absolutely wonderful people to work with. If you're looking for a designer, a composer, or a videographer, just let me know. I know a lot of people in the industry here as well. So thank you so much. I think that's a wrap. Jim, do you have any questions?
No, I just think it's so great to have stuff back. It's so great to see you doing the festival. It's great to do this. It's great to see you guys showing up. And then what's going to happen next year?
Next year, we're planning a slightly more ambitious festival. We're going to have, we had a little bit on visual effects. We had a Singaporean who worked on an Ed Sheeran music video this year. His company is called Method and Madness. His name is Tan Wen Hao. He actually flew to the Ukraine to be part of the team that did the music video for Ed Sheeran. Yeah, it's quite amazing that they got Singapore to go over to the Ukraine to do. But apparently in London, a lot of commercials and music videos are shot in the Ukraine. This is obviously before the war, which is a very unfortunate thing. So a lot of people use the very good crews there and good locations. So that's why the music video was shot there. And my friend actually won a Cannes Award, a Cannes Lion Award, I think, for one of the previous spots that he did for Greenpeace. Which was called Westminster.
Nice.
And had Boris Johnson in there, and it's all about the environment and so on. Yeah.
All right, well, give it up, please, for Michael. And we will be back in this room at noon with YouTube talking about shopping. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very cool. I can't wait to see. I want to come to the animation festival next year. So, that was great. Thanks.